You've probably seen this clip before.
Stepping on the guy who hides himself in the carpet in Soho. There's a guy in there that likes to be stepped on. He wants to be stepped on. Okay, kind of reflecting on what I just did, it seems like I might have indirectly pleasured someone from my walking.
A rolled up carpet in the middle of New York City. Someone steps on it, people laugh, and eventually someone ends up filming it. But what they don't realize is that inside that carpet, completely still and completely silent, is a man, and his name is Kevin.
So, you're a carpet.
Get the carpet of Facebook.
And he's been doing this for over 30 years. Long before TikTok, long before the internet was even a thing, and going viral was even a career path. Before being weird was something people branded other people with, Kevin was already living life as a mystery. You'd see him in the back corners of nightclubs, fetish parties, wrapped up tightly in a carpet, letting strangers walk all over him, without ever saying a word. He says it's not sexual, he calls it art, it's meditation, and a kind of surrender.
Just to let you know, a lot of guys do this for fetishy reasons. We do this more for art.
But most people call it straight disturbing.
And there's a guy wrapped in a carpet underneath the bar, and you step up onto it and you order your drink, and all of a sudden you hear like moaning and groaning, and you're like, what's going on? And you realize that you and all of your girlfriends are standing on some guy who's totally aroused that you're standing on top of him.
We're going to explore who Kevin is, why he does what he does, and how he became such a bizarre legend in New York's underground clubbing scene, and what happens when the internet discovers something that they don't fully understand. Long before TikTok ever caught wind of a man rolled up in a carpet, Kevin was quietly becoming a fixture in New York's underground nightlife scene. At first, Kevin worked as a bouncer for the Peppermint Lounge, a gay night spot for many to come. We're talking the late 1980s and early 2000s, clubs like Limelight, Tunnel, Mud Club, Pyramid, the kind of places that don't just accept weirdness, they expected it. Drag queens, goths, punks, and any performance artists in the alternative space, especially dominatrixes. Everyone had a character, and Kevin was just a little quieter in the set.
And this club was called the Peppermint Lounge. It was a really popular club. And then I was standing by the exit doors, and people are coming up to me all night saying, oh, where's the bathroom? And I would point to where the bathroom was. And then by the end of the night, this big burly guy, Mario, who ran the place, said, I saw you helping us out all night. You want a good job? And I said, okay.
Instead of dancing or dressing up, he rolled himself up into a carpet and lay perfectly still on the floor, sometimes in the middle of the room, sometimes in a corner, never asking for attention, just simply wanting to be walked on or stood upon. It was as if he wanted to feel like he was a part of the venue he was in, capitalizing on the feeling of being squished and small in a space where many people would just act like he was never there. Never asking for attention, but never avoiding attention either. Not as a prank, not for money, just because. Kevin even had a method to how he would wrap himself up to provide a more comfortable walking experience for his people.
And then one day I was at the Delancey Lounge, and I used one of these big black mats they had in the hall, and I wrapped it around my legs, and I found out, you know what? People standing much longer than it was just the body. Now I learned to use one big thick carpet along with a little carpet, and when I roll it up, it's way easier for people to stand on.
So the goal is kind of to like get this thing that is comfortable so that people will stand on it for a longer time.
Yeah, and so, if they don't know, they don't know. If they do, they do.
The mentality for someone to go to these lengths to even think of a proper structure for how the carpets should be rolled around himself is honestly scary in itself. But it's just one of the many methods Kevin did to ensure that he was a carpet. And he's oddly right. If he was just to wrap himself up in one thin carpet, people walking over him would get his shtick right away. But ensuring that he was wrapped in multiple layers of fabric allowed people to think it was just one giant rolled up carpet that was in the middle of the room, maybe due to reconstruction, maybe someone leaving it out front to get thrown away, or maybe just someone wrapped up in it. And that's exactly what people eventually caught onto. But at first, people thought it was a bit, some kind of joke, maybe a fetish, maybe even a dare. But as years passed, Kevin kept showing up. Clubs would shut down, DJs would come and go, and New York always kept changing. But Kevin stayed wrapped up in the same carpet, returning to every night and every event. And eventually, people started to realize this wasn't a bit and it wasn't a stunt, it was a lifestyle. Kevin also mentioned his favorite clubs he liked to attend to because of how weird the crowd was, and how the stepping on him caught on enough to where people would expect Kevin to be there if they had shown to that specific club.
But raves were fun. most of the people wore like Converse and like cute little furry leggings, and it was a cute, fun type crowd. And they were like bounce around and say, Kevin Carpet, we love you. And they're going back and forth. And the raves were fun, actually.
He even had prime hub spots for being a carpet. He would prioritize lower income levels of New York City because people there simply wouldn't care or think no other if there was a carpet left in the street or outside of a nightclub.
Where are some of the places that you like to street carpet in New York?
Well, definitely St. Mark's and 14th Street and places like 23rd Street. Not uptown, because that's like a little, it's not a cool type area. It's like, but I'll stay like Delancey Street, Houston.
You don't want like rich old uptown ladies and their dogs.
No, I mean, they would say something. They would call maintenance over or something. Get this out of here. What's it doing here? But in the East Village, no one really cares.
Because people would think no other than just having regular trash outside, Kevin got incredible experiences from people walking all over him in lower income areas. Kevin also retells a story of an officer coming up to him and was relieved that it was just Kevin and not a dead body wrapped up in a rug.
If you remember Patricia Fields, that was on 8th Street. So I was there in one wintry day, and I was lying like right by her store, and it was cold, so I was shivering, so I was moving. So I think someone called the police because they saw the carpet move. I remember the Sergeant Shack, the big huge sergeant in the 6th precinct. He saw the carpet and he said, "Oh boy, I hope it's not a dead on arrival, DOA, because I got all this paperwork to do." And I said, "Nope, it's only me." And they said, "Oh, thank goodness."
But again, these are just Kevin's stories, and we can only take his word for the truth, so I don't know how logical or truthful these stories are. But it really does make you think an officer getting called for a dead on arrival case and just going, "Oh, Kevin, it's you. I'm so glad it's just a man wrapped up in a carpet and not a dead body from a murder." Which I guess if I was the cop, I would be relieved that it's not a dead body, but I don't think I would be happy and relieved that it was Kevin. I would be like, "Get out of here, you freak." People started to notice Kevin and picked up his attraction for media coverage. Kevin even said in rare interviews that he sees his performance as kind of a surrender, a ritual, if you will. He describes it like meditation. Stillness through submission. He's not trying to get stepped on for attention. In fact, he claims the opposite. Anonymity is his goal, to become part of the floor, to truly disappear. It's not sexual. It's Zen, he claims. Whether that's true or it's up for debate, there's something undeniable about this man who is doing these bizarre things in New York City. And the fact that he's been doing it for decades, and this sort of, it caught on in the early 2000s to late mid 2000s, disappeared for a little bit, and now picking up in the recent 2024-2025 scene is miraculous for Kevin because it truly shows his dedication to the craft to stay relevant even when he's irrelevant in the scene. But he's been doing the exact same bizarre thing for decades, with no real attempt to monetize it, explain it, or even promote it. One of the biggest questions people think or ask when they see Kevin is, what do you do for work? If you're not monetizing the fetish of getting stepped on, how are you able to provide for yourself as someone who lives in New York City? And while I could only imagine this guy working at Subway making me a meatball marinara while I step on him on the way in, that's not the case. Kevin is unemployed. Shocker. But in actuality, Kevin says he gets his money from a trust. As he stutters on a radio show, hesitant to announce that he does have a trust fund, you can see him very hesitant to say, I have a trust, and the full word of trust doesn't fully come out because he's probably a little embarrassed.
Do you have a day job?
No.
Okay, so you don't have other like side jobs. You're Kevin Carpet.
Well, I have, I don't know if I should say this here. I have like a trust, so I have a decent amount of money. My father, he was like one of the executives at Universal Pictures. So
this guy wraps himself in a carpet and does nothing for work because he has a trust fund from rich parents. And the fact that he stutters and hesitates to say it can only establish the truth further that he already came from wealth, and he's free to do whatever he wants with zero financial struggle. Kevin is a relic in a different kind of New York, a version of the city where performance art wasn't just tolerated, it thrived, and where you could be strange without needing any social media strategy, where someone could spend 30 years while being stepped on without even stepping into the spotlight. And that's what kind of makes Kevin's story kind of haunting, because the city is constantly moving forward. Kevin never changed. He just laid there, waiting.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
But hold on, Kevin isn't the only freak who likes to get stepped on and wrapped in a carpet. Meet Giorgio. In a New York Times article from 2009, an article profiles Giorgio T, a 48-year-old massage therapist from Malta who moonlights in New York City's nightlife as the human carpet. A man who lies on bar floors wrapped in a thin rug and invites strangers, often women in heels, to step on him. Which may seem bizarre or comedic, it's a deeply personal fetish for Giorgio, unlike Kevin, who does it for the sense of zen and to feel one of the venue. Giorgio discovered this as a child where he enjoyed the weight of cats walking on him and decided to take it a step further as he got older. Giorgio treats the experience as both performance art and personal gratification, saying he genuinely enjoys it. But the difference between Giorgio and Kevin is Giorgio is actually getting paid. Giorgio apparently gets paid $200 per session for getting stepped on. He appears regularly at bars and parties, preferring moments where people step on him or stand on him, especially when participants are uninhibited. His passion sometimes clashes with logistics or social norms. Some venue managers obviously shut down out of concern or safety, or even the image of a reflection of a man wrapped in a thin rug, clearly not hidden, getting stepped on and getting money from it. But like Kevin, Giorgio remains earnest and open about his lifestyle, pursuing it not for fame and not for money, but just because he loves doing it. People are paying me to have fun, he says. While reactions to his presence range from shock to delight, Giorgio sees the interactions as meaningful. At the end of a long night, he folds up his carpet, heads home, and reflects on his unique place in New York's underground scene. The only difference is Giorgio admits that he has a problem, where Kevin believes he's seeking spiritual excellence. After Kevin got his first taste of fame in the early 2000s, people started to catch on, and in the world of blogs and videos slowly emerging, a 2011 blog post got an interview with Kevin to highlight some of his personality and understand where he's coming from. People shared videos and photos from that night of Kevin in his natural element, and we even got an out-of-rug photo of the man himself. Look at that smile. Kevin shares his first experience of the desire to be wrapped up in a carpet. I was at the Disco 2000s event at the Limelight, where I was asked to participate and do my carpet thing. The head guys doing the event knew me since I ran the doors of some famous clubs, and my first rave carpet was the VIP area, which I overlooked the huge dance floor. I remember as I peered out during the night, I had Joan Jett, Christina Applegate, Billy Idol's girlfriend, and a lot of other cool people standing on the carpets to view what was going on the dance floor. It was a cool night, and I went back every Wednesday for the same Disco 2000 party. But sometimes I laid by the bar, and sometimes I laid with the Go-Go's, all depended on the night. Kevin also shares in detail what it is about wrapping himself in carpets makes him feel and why it is or is not a fetish. When I first started doing this at Gothic events, I didn't use a carpet. I just laid by the bar dressed in all black, gloves, a ski mask, and goggles. I laid very still all night, and it was funny. Some people didn't even think I was real. They had to touch me. Then, when I received a government grant to do this, I had to think of other ways to try and do this at different events, clubs, and bars. So, the carpet idea came when some people told me it was hard to stay on me because my belly moved and they fell off sometimes. Plus, when girls wore heels, that would hurt so much and it wasn't too fun. Then, a bar owner said to me, if I came in early and laid in a carpet in the corner where all the bartenders would go, the shot girls and patrons, I could go incognito and be a part of the bar. People would think I was a bunch of carpets here. That sounds interesting. So, it began. One thing about getting stepped on is it's not the main reason for art, which is part of it, but the art factor comes to play when you're at a space laying there and being used as the object you're portraying. Me, a carpet. It's about being one with the venue, as people go about their business and you're like a chair or a sofa. This is a for many, but to me, it's art. In fact, I get messages all the time from guys all over the USA and beyond saying, dude, how can you have guys walk on you? That's gay. I guess if I did it for a fetish or other reasons, maybe. If a guy loves girls, then he would just want girls on him. Being a carpet is just that. And being a carpet and carpets can't say you can go on them and who can't. When I lay wherever I'm at, I get in a zen-like state and listen as people trod on me and go by hearing and sensing the environment. Being an actual carpet, when this works, it's great. And as the blog post was posted a year later, tons of comments started to fill the section showing love and appreciation for Kevin. Not exactly what we thought, as in 2025, people see Kevin as kind of a freak. As Kevin grew more in popularity, so would the desire to be stepped on, going to riots under the carpet, backstage at VIP events, and people loved him. Every carpet on the side of the street people believed was Kevin, and saying hi and taking pictures as if he became a landmark or an object people personified, connecting the rug to Kevin. They say art is supposed to make you feel something, but what if the feeling is confusion? Or disgust, or maybe even violation? Kevin's act by being rolled up in a carpet and letting people step on him is simple on paper, but the second you watch it for real and your eyes lay on a man wrapping himself up in multiple layers of carpet, something deeper kicks in. For some, it's funny, and for others, it's weirdly calming, but for a growing number of people, especially online, it crosses a line.
So if you didn't know, there's a person in there.
People start asking, is this even art or is it just a public fetish? fetish. And Kevin has openly admitted, as we know, to working at fetish events and wanting to just be a part of the venue, and not because he likes to be walked on. The reactions towards Kevin today are really never neutral. You'll find TikTok comments of people saying, "This is wild," or "Kevin is a legend, I've heard of him before," and "This is a grown man." The biggest point of tension is consent. Not Kevin's, he's clearly choosing to do this, but ours. The people. And the people stepping on him don't usually know that he's there. Sometimes they're in a hurry, sometimes it's a funny drunk person at 3 a.m. stepping on a random lump exiting the club.
Step on him, bro.
Yo, don't. Oh, shit.
What the hell?
But other times, people realizing afterwards what they have just done and feel deeply uncomfortable and sometimes even violated, especially when those clips go viral. The unease part of why Kevin is so polarizing is if he were anonymous and just a guy in the gallery, people might call it avant-garde. But in a nightclub or in a public street, suddenly it feels different. It's a little more intimate. There's less controlled environmency to it. There's no gallery of the wall separating the art from the audience. You become part of the art and you become part of Kevin's fantasy. It makes you question what you're comfortable with and whether weirdness still has a place for the public eye. Because as soon as you put Kevin into a modern context, caught on TikTok, the stitches, the memes, the debated Reddit threads, the story kind of gets blurry. Some people treat him like a legend, a performance art icon, and the last freak left in the city who has to become clean eventually. But to others, it's a disturbing and violating person who's doing an act of service that feels like a fetish. So what's the biggest argument? The argument is that this isn't art at all, and this is a kink and a public fetishization of something that is honestly freaky and should be stopped immediately. But hey, this is New York City after all. The city where Leigh Bowery wore gimp masks and exploded gender on stage, where the Warhol factory turned daily life into living art, and where Mariana Abramovic sat in silence for hours while strangers stared into her eyes. Where Chris Burden had himself literally shot in the arm in front of an audience. Kevin fits into that lineage in a way that's uncomfortable because unlike the gallery artists, he never framed it, sold it, or really explained it. And unlike TikTok creators, he's not asking to go viral. He just happens to end up going viral because of other people making it a point of how weird he is. The silver lining in Kevin's claims is that people love him and feel safe around him, and that he isn't this danger to society that other people say he is, and that other people shouldn't be a danger to others either. Kevin has publicly said things like, "Don't approach and harass women, they have enough going on for them already," or referencing back to how many women have said they feel safe around him and how Kevin is just Kevin.
Don't try and pick up women. Don't try to bother them. They have enough problems. Just go, do what you do, and that's it. And to this day, everyone who knows me or doesn't know me, they tell me, "Oh, you're very safe and we feel comfortable with you," and that's what I make it a point to do.
But in today's world, Kevin is viewed with more confusion and disgust than ever in a world where people can take a narrative and instantly flip it in a matter of weeks. That isn't stopping Kevin from being who he is or who he wants to be, which is an inanimate object that he wants to replicate. Kevin is going to be Kevin for as long as he's alive, and the world should get used to that because if he's been doing it since the 80s, chances are he's going to be doing it till he's rolled into a carpet himself, and that police officer really does have to find a dead-on arrival, only it will be Kevin and not a victim. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Please consider subscribing. It helps the channel immensely. And yeah, I've been LTK, and I'm out of here. Bye, guys.